Everyone was scared of something as a kid. For some kids it was public speaking, for others it was clowns, and for me it was the epic Mickey logo. Yeah, I was no stranger of being scared of the media I consumed as a kid. Sometimes it was totally justified, and other times I really have no excuse. So why not celebrate Thanksgiving by taking a look back at my embarrassing childhood and 9 things that scared me as a kid. Wow, a LionDog video without a needlessly long intro is already getting scary. You're watching the LionDog Show Thanksgiving special, and I'm taking a look back at 9 things that scared me as a kid, in no particular order. It's Juice and Jam. Number 1. VeggieTales, a Snoodle's Tale. Really? You were scared of a Snoodle's Tale? A charming Seussian tale that teaches kids how they were wonderfully made by God? How on earth could that have scared you? Well, it's because a Snoodle's Tale is, quite literally, only half the story. You see, most VeggieTales episodes were formatted like mini cartoons of its era, with 2 segments compiling 1 half-hour episode. So while the title may be a Snoodle's Tale, it also included The Strange Case of Dr. Jiggle and Mr. Sly, a parody of the horror novel Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Because every kid will understand that reference, this segment followed Scooter Carrot investigating the identity of a mysterious disco dancer in an alley who bears a striking resemblance to Jimmy Gord. Huh. Odd. For the most part, the segment does a good job balancing the horror elements of its source material with VeggieTales' brand of silly comedy in a way that neither overshadows the other. Until we get to the conclusion, that is. Not only does Mr. Sly being Dr. Jiggle the whole time stand as one of the biggest twists I saw as a 4-year-old, but it also stands as one of the most disturbing scenes I saw as a 4-year-old. The creepy score building anticipation towards the reveal, the sounds of the tearing suit, the close-ups to said tearing, and the onlookers' shocked reactions turned a lighthearted Christian cartoon into a full-on body horror. Every time that me and my brother watched the Snoodle's Tale audio commentary because we were huge freaking nerds, I would always leave the room during that moment. Unfortunately, I couldn't always run from it. One night in Awana, which was a children's church program for those of you who don't know, our leader was excited to announce that our class would be watching a movie that night, and I was pumped. I saw that sour apple green DVD case behind her back. I knew we were watching VeggieTales. Suddenly a thought occurred to me. Oh no. What if it's that Dr. Jiggle short I hated? Nah, there's dozens of VeggieTales episodes. There's no reason to believe that out of all of them it would be that one. What do you think happened? Luckily, I have come around on the Dr. Jiggle short as a whole, and now A Snoodle's Tale is one of my favorite episodes of the entire show. Funny how that happens. Number 2. Spy Kids 2. Now, I don't need to convince you people of culture that Spy Kids 3D Game Over is the best in the trilogy. But I might need to convince you on why Spy Kids 2 Island of Lost Dreams is the worst in the trilogy. Yeah, you heard me right. I don't care if it has Steve Buscemi spouting philosophical nonsense. It is the worst of the 3 because it scared me when I was little. Yeah, I have no other reasons to back my claim. Scaring young me was reason enough. So, what scene scared me to the point of considering it the worst in this highly esteemed trilogy? Don't worry, I'm as underwhelmed as you are. These films have some pretty messed up stuff in them. Heck, the third one has Frodo Baggins die on screen. Yet this is what scared me? Looking back on it, I had to have exaggerated how scary it was in my mind. Because this isn't a scary face. This is the face that belongs on a cringy YouTube thumbnail. That face was enough to make me never watch this film. But just like Dr. Jiggle, I sometimes had no choice. Before me and my brother were old enough to stay home by ourselves, our mom would drag us with her to the gym, and while she would work out, we would hang around in one of those kids' play areas full of whatever childish distractions the owners of the building could find, like old Happy Meal toys or video game kiosks. It was actually from that kiosk that me and my brother first learned about Super Smash Bros. Melee. Aside from those, the play area also featured a TV where they'd play random DVDs like SpongeBob or that one CG Arthur movie we all vaguely remember. I think you know where I'm going with this. It was torture. I was waiting at the door for my mom to pick me up, and when she did, I was so relieved. You know, in hindsight, I could have just closed my eyes and looked away at that part. But did you really expect me to think rationally when I spent years being afraid of this? Recently, I rewatched the scene to see what made it so scary for me, only to find out that he made that face because he saw his mother-in-law. For years, I have been scared of an in-laws joke. Like I said, no excuse. The real scariest part of the Spy Kids movie is that they never made a follow-up to Game Over. Oh well, maybe it was best that Spy Kids was only a trilogy, like Shrek or Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Number 3. Mario Kart Wii. I'll never forget the day I got Mario Kart Wii. Me and my brother woke up that day to see our dad got home from a business trip with that giant Mario Kart Wii box with the wheel inside. We then spent almost the entire rest of the day playing that game. We loved it. I have a ton of memories of playing this game, whether it be playing it during special events like sleepovers or having a babysitter over for the night, or playing it online with my brother and reacting to all the ridiculous cheaters and hackers. But not all of those memories were good ones. When you're clocking in a lot of hours into the game, you're bound to be making tons of progress in it. After reaching a certain point in the game, the title screen begins to alternate from various screens of the characters, including...
Hey, how's it going?
I was never scared of Bowser before nor after this, but something about Bowser showing up on screen at random along with his evil laugh did not put me in the right place. Now, I couldn't just not play my favorite game of all time, so how did I avoid this issue? Well, whenever I played this game by myself, I'd start the game, leave the room for a minute or so until the title screen already appeared and Bowser probably finished laughing, and then I'd start playing. Nowadays, I can say it's a pretty mediocre evil laugh. It's got nothing on the classics. Number 4. The SpongeBob 4D Ride. As a kid, my Christian parents were pretty lax when it came to banning media. Despite this, SpongeBob and Nickelodeon as a whole were completely off limits. That's right, I never watched one of the most famous modern cartoons and sources of humor for people my age. But I almost did. You see, me and my family had this tradition where we visit the zoo every year for Easter since my uncle worked there. One year, the zoo featured a 4D theater that played the SpongeBob 4D ride, and since my uncle worked there, he let me and my brother watch it for free. Finally, I could understand what all the fuss about SpongeBob was all about! While online, I watched a screen that played a preview of the movie, and I saw a clip of that pirate guy jump out of his frame and shaking the screen. I was startled by it, but it was too late. It was our turn to watch the movie. We sat in our seats as we waited for the movie to start. When it began, you'd never believe who I saw.
Are you ready, kids?
No!
I officially wanted nothing to do with that. I screamed, "Stop!" And then Usher soon escorted me out of the theater as I joined up with my parents again. We went on our stay as usual, visiting the animals and having a wonderful time, until my parents started playing a true or false game, and my mom said, "True or false? LionDog likes the SpongeBob ride." Wow, real supportive, Mom. Yeah, so whenever I'm in a voice chat with a bunch of public schooled atheists referencing SpongeBob and I don't laugh, now you know why. Number 5. Spider-Man. When I was young, I was huge into Spider-Man. You can't blame me as I grew up in the age of the Raimi trilogy. Granted, I never read the comics, saw the movies, or watched the cartoons, but I did play Spider-Man Friend or Foe on Wii and begged my parents for those web shooter toys. So that easily makes me the biggest Spider-Man fan there ever was. Anyways, long ago, me and my brother and dad would camp out in the living room or bonus room where we'd watch a movie and then sleep on an inflatable mattress. And one night, we chose Spider-Man as our film. As my dad set up the mattress, he played a little bit of the movie as I watched. I got pretty excited to finally watch this movie, until I got to the part in the opening credits with the CG Green Goblin mask. Now on the outside, I remained perfectly calm, but on the inside... Once my dad finished setting everything up and my brother got there, my dad prepared to start the movie over, but I kept asking him to skip the opening credits, not just due to them scaring me, but also since they go on for quite a while. After asking too many times, my dad got sick of me and ended up just kicking me out of the campout.
Well, you can't do this to me.
It doesn't matter. I'm still the biggest Spider-Man fan. Number 6. The Incredible Hulk. Green Goblin wasn't the only Green Marvel character that scared me as a kid. Okay, show of hands. How many of you forgot about this movie? And if you do remember, only remember it because of that one episode of What If? Yeah, I figured as much. Well, I've never seen the movie myself, nor do I really care. I do have 3 traumatic memories relating to the film's marketing. Before the days of the cheaper cardboard displays, some prominent films would display detailed statues of their main characters in theater lobbies, mainly for animated films or movies with CG characters, the Incredible Hulk being one of them. During the marketing push for the film, a big Hulk statue stood in the middle of the lobby, and it towered over me as a 6-year-old. It scared me so much that I avoided seeing any movies there until I saw G-Force the following year. Yes, that G-Force. Even after the film left theaters, it still found ways to bother me. My local Blockbuster had a cardboard Hulk cutout in the store for the home video release, and it made me not want to shop there. If you're still looking for a reason to why Blockbuster went bankrupt, it went bankrupt because of me. While those promotions eventually came to an end once the film lost its relevancy, one Hulk promotion always stuck around me. Those stupid Hulk fist toys that roared when you shook them. I hated those things. I never liked those animatronic Halloween decorations that come to life when they detect motion. And while the Hulk fist couldn't detect motion, I always worried even the slightest disturbance within their radius would set them off. Whenever I went to the toy aisles of Target, I would always take a long way around to the Lego aisle just to avoid even tempting fate with those detestable toys. But you want to know what the worst part was? They came back for the Avengers movie. Because of course they would. Well, with most of these entries where I've gotten over them with age, I would still be scared of these things to this day. I just hate really loud noises and electronics suddenly turning on. Similar to number 7, home entertainment logos. In an earlier video that you probably watched as it has way more views than any of my other videos combined, I mentioned how I never found Disney Fast Play all that frightening when compared to the other Disney DVD logos that I saw at a young age. 3 to be specific. First, there's the Disney Home Entertainment logo of the early 2000s. After the silent warning screens and blank loading, the logo would then appear in a burst of light followed by a loud choir, all set behind an isolating starry backdrop that would always catch me off guard. It was even worse if you were watching it in the dark and almost surrounded by it. Now you might think that a single jump scare is enough for one viewing experience, but clearly Michael Eisner thought otherwise as the Disney DVD logo follows soon after. Now it starts off pretty tame until this dated CG Tinkerbell with lifeless eyes flies to the front of your screen. Thank goodness they replaced her with a much more timeless 2D Tinkerbell a few years later. And then, there's the most famous scary home video logo of them all. Thanks. Surprisingly, for the most part, the standard THX logo didn't scare me all that much, probably due to its loud noise being more gradual, giving me more time to prepare for it. But one specific THX logo did scare me. All you fans of Incredibles on DVD know where I'm going with this. It starts off with a snow globe in the middle of a thunderstorm that soon gets struck by lightning in a loud startling burst, as the globe shatters into pieces before the shards creepily melts and morph into the THX logo. With the other THX logos, they made sense and fit the company's job of audio production to some extent. This logo, on the other hand, makes no sense, as if they wanted it to be uncanny for no other reason than to be uncanny. Now, despite the way they can be with iconic IPs, Disney does not have a monopoly on creepy DVD logos. Picture this. You're watching a movie while you're playing your DS. The credits are starting, but you're more focused on your game to eject the DVD just yet. Once you notice the end of the credits approaching, you put aside your DS and hop onto the floor to eject your copy of the 2008 classic Alvin and the Chipmunks. But as you do so, out of nowhere, this plays. A loud piano starts with a white screen that ends with a loud, echoing bang. The Deluxe Digital Media logo always caught me off guard when I least expected it. In hindsight, these logos in the next entry probably all led to my dislike for being alone with a blank TV that could suddenly come to life with a loud blare or flash. A fear made all the more likely with the advent of voice automation and smart TVs. Number 8. Disney Seen It. It was my brother's birthday, and one of his friends was kind enough to gift him Disney Seen It, a game that was a staple of our family game nights. For my younger viewers, Seen It was a board game at the time where players have to answer trivia questions relating to movies on their TV to progress on the physical game board. It was so popular that it led to multiple spin-offs, most famous being the Disney version. Now you might be wondering, how can a Disney board game be scary? Well, there's the weird backgrounds and that CG clock, but I feel like those two wouldn't be as scary without this game's creepiest aspect, the music. The game's music always felt eerie to me, but I couldn't figure out for the life of me why, until I came across this comment on a YouTube upload of the game's music that perfectly summarizes why it felt that way. I assume they tried to go for a fun and cheerful aspect to the music, just like most Disney music out there at the time of this game's release. But it felt like it's been missing something that makes the music work, which is why the music can be creepy at times. To add on to that point, I also noticed how a lot of the music starts off very calm before ending with a loud percussion or brass. Now I understand that they used this to be like, time's up, what's your final answer, but I still hated it. To pour salt into my cowardly wounds, I mentioned that we played this game a ton for family game night. When does family game night take place? At night, making the weird aesthetics and uncanny music all the creepier. No thanks, I'll take Mario Party any day of the week. Number 9. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory was one of my favorite movies growing up. It was a movie about Charlie Bucket, who's just a poor kid from a poor family, till he's given the opportunity of a lifetime to visit a fantastical candy factory that's run by an eccentric, if a little suspicious, chocolatier that was played by the late great Gene Wilder. The movie was filled with imaginative imagery, iconic songs, and a ton of safety violations. I love this movie even to this day, and others do as well. Which of course meant that Tim Burton just had to get his grubby little Edward Scissorhands all over my beloved classic by giving it the remake treatment. Well, technically it's not a remake, it's more so an adaptation of the same book. But it's the principle of the thing. I did not care for this film growing up. It took all the charm and whimsy from the original and warped it into a creepy film that made me uncomfortable every time I watched it. It was like watching my lovely son suddenly go through his goth phase. The best demonstration of this adaptation's creepiness is with the violence scene. Now in the original film, Violet's punishment was a harmless comeuppance that totally didn't lead to many uncomfortable fetishes. In the Tim Burton version, on the other hand, it was a grotesque transformation accompanied with a booming score. While Dr. Jekyll transformed in a matter of seconds, this one stretched on for an entire scene that terrified me to no end. So yeah, I hated this film, and I hated how often my brother would watch it. Whenever he watched it, I got nothing! I lost! Good day, me! However, my opinion didn't stay that way. A few months back, I gave this film a rewatch, and to my surprise, I really enjoyed it. Granted, I still prefer the 71 film, but I see why it developed a cult following recently. I like how vibrant the effects look, I enjoy the fresh takes on the songs from the book, and I appreciate that Johnny Depp made Wonka his own rather than just imitating Wilder. And surprisingly, Burton gave the film a lot more charm than I remembered through the focus on Charlie's relationship with his family, or the exploration of Wonka's past. Seriously, why do we need another origin story for him when we already have one? Overall, I walked away from this rewatch satisfied, and I'd actually recommend you guys check it out if you haven't seen it in a while. Or at all. You know, I noticed a common trend throughout all the fears I've mentioned. Most of them connect back to great childhood memories of mine in one form or another. While I had a ton of horrifying experiences as a kid, I had a ton of great memories that made it all worth it and that I would never trade for anything in the world. I guess that's just life. You take the good and the bad, and at some point you'll look back on those days and think, man, I wish CG Tinkerbell was the scariest thing I knew. You've been watching The LionDog Show. Have a great day, and have a happy Thanksgiving!